Hello, everyone. Welcome to Curious Crossroads with our co-host Rachel Starkweather. It's Rachel's first time meeting one of our favorites here, Lisa Allen of Timing Magic. Lisa, first of all, what are you up to? Where are you at right now?
I'm in Los Angeles at least until the spring, perhaps even longer.
Okay.
And I am, I was doing it like when we first got, like, I don't know, this scheduled and everything. I was doing a dowsing class for a couple of different providers. And that's when, we kind of got together and said, hey, we need to do a second video
Mm,
because we already did the one video. So,
yeah.
and I was really excited. So yeah, I
Well,
wanted
what
to
was
be
your
able to
dowsing
share
class?
those links with your community.
Nice. What was the dowsing class exactly?
So what it was a couple of different subjects. One was just basics of how to do the pendulum, kind of like I did in your pendulum class, except that it was only a half hour instead of an hour. And so it was really challenging. So your class is actually better.
Uh,
But then the second one in the same hour is it had to do with using the emotion code and how to clear patterns out of you with the pendulum with emotion code. And all of the emotion codes, you may know this already, they match up with certain Chinese meridians, and then the Chinese meridians can match up with your EFT or whatever. And
what's an emotion code?
oh,
Yeah.
emotion code, oh my goodness, you got to look that up. So it's really really awesome. The emotion code, it was arrived at by people like, do you remember earlier in your videos that you were talking about how we end up embodying our, not only our medical conditions, but like even our very energy, like our planetary energy in our fascia and
Oh,
our
yeah.
and our tissues, and particularly with Mars and Saturn, because one of them is blood flow and muscles, and the other one is like our literal structure with bones and ligaments and
Mm.
fascia. um it's a way to access those through the Chinese meridian system, because every kind of emotion has a way that it goes stored to your body. So the emotion code breaks down the exact emotion along with the meridian. And so the part that I add to it is you can douse and find which emotion to work on that day. And you can, like, and so this is going counterclockwise, you can clear your energy. And so you just meditate and you clear your energy of that particular emotion, and you watch your feelings like happening at that time. Then the other part of the video was where you spin in the energy that you want. So it could either be the opposite of the emotion. So like, for instance, if it's discouragement or something, it could be hope or something like that. But also, I love flower essences,
Mm.
because I think that those, like, really, again, just the way that the emotion code really nails what it is to get out of your system. I think that flower essences really nail what to bring into your system, and it's a really gentle way to, if you will, the flower energy educates your emotional body without any interference with our ego or our mind. And so it can be a gentle aha moment that you make a connection that you didn't make before. And
Mm.
rather than taking the actual flower essence, you can use the pendulum and call in that particular essence as well.
Oh, interesting.
So
So it
that's
sounds
what the class is for. So, like, all your people,
like
get a hold of Andrea. She has links for those classes. And then the other one
well,
that
get
I
a
did
hold of
was
Lisa
for
actually
ancestral
because
healing.
Lisa knows a lot about the classes, but
I know, right?
but you can befriend Lisa through our page. Like Lisa's definitely a friend of ours.
Absolutely.
Yeah. But okay, so Lisa, you're talking about clearing, like let's say there's a chakra that's out of line or something like that, and you can kind of
Yes.
see that in the pendulum. Then you figure out kind of what you want to clear, and then you bring. There's this word that means like to empty your vessels so the Holy Spirit can get in or something. Like it feels like it's like emptying the vessel so then something else can be put in there. Is that kind of how it works?
Yes. And if you know a better word than clearing, let's use it.
Yeah, I don't know the word. I can't remember the word, but it was the concept of like emptying your
Yeah,
vessels so
because
that.
I know that you did a lot of, with the translating Greek and everything. I've never undertook that, but I
Mhm.
admire Greek language because much of what we know about medicine comes from that.
Yeah, interesting. So I have a question about the pendulums. Okay, so we're doing an NCGR research group where we're trying to research astrological remediation, and there's this idea that you cannot study astrology because it's not repeatable and all this kind of stuff
Hmm.
scientifically. But I think that pendulums could be used in astrological research like extensively to measure chakras. For so talk to us a little bit about like, can you really measure a chakra with a pendulum? What
You
is that?
can. So the way that I would do it now, again, everybody has their own, if you will, alignment with what swings and what it's saying. Everybody says, okay, so if you say, just like in your class, what is your yes? So my yes looks like this. Okay.
So
But
it's an
somebody else's
individual
yes,
attunement.
yes, yes. So once you figure out your individual attunements, you decide, okay, I'm going to measure, let's say, each chakra, and you're going to start with the red one. Okay. So then you can tell your pendulum to spin. Okay. Well, man, this is so funny. So mine is automatically trained now. So when it goes counterclockwise, it's clearing for me. So I probably need to clear my root chakra because here I am talking about it, and it's like, let's just do it. Right. So then it'll do it, and then it'll give me this, yes, I'm done. And
Hmm.
so then we can actually add energy to it. So let's say that it's underactive, okay, instead of overactive.
Hmm.
And so we can actually bring in red energy or call in and see now it's going clockwise.
Hmm.
Okay. And then it may go diagonally like it's going right now. And for me, and it took me a little while to figure this out, it means it's harmonizing. So it's like it's kind of deleting energy, like, recalibrating. And then it'll say yes that it's done just like it just did.
Interesting.
Okay.
So,
You can go through each of your chakras to do that.
mhm.
And you can also, like I said, you can do like work with your ancestors. You can even actually, hey, where in my body is my ancestor pattern of blah 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 affecting me? I'll give you an example. I had a client friend who had a very interesting pattern in the females in her family all having gallbladder surgery and removal.
Well,
Okay. And her own Saturn, she had the surgery herself, and her own Saturn was involved, and Saturn rules the gallbladder, right?
mm,
So she had a Saturn pattern in her chart. So one of the things that we determined was that in her family, so each of them had a different expression, but they were all related to the limitation of energy, Saturn holding back fear. Okay.
mhm,
And so in her family, her parents like made it to be where she couldn't make any decisions by herself. They had to make all the decisions for her and felt like that she was not able to make decisions. And so you can imagine as you grow up in your life, she never felt safe making decisions.
interesting.
So one of the things that we work on with her chart is her Saturn energy, and but also like the exercise of like, how did you feel making a decision for yourself today? And so we've been working together for a number of years now, and she's able to stand up for her decisions now and can to tell her family, look, you know, and also that worrying is a curse, right? Instead of, it's not uplifting, but many people don't realize that when you worry about somebody, it's not really love. It's kind of, it's a curse.
Wow, that's interesting. Yeah, it is kind of like manifesting harm on them by perseverating in a
Yes,
mean thought.
it's a prayer for harm. Exactly.
Oh, interesting, interesting. So, okay, so
Yeah.
back to the researching the chakras, because I have a lot of people asking me about this. So, do you think that if we were
Okay.
going to research a chakra and try to measure it with a pendulum, that if we were going to get a real calculation for a real like scientific calculation, that we maybe want to like attach the pendulum
Um.
to the
Okay.
ceiling versus a person?
Right. Okay. So it works better on a real live example, but what I would say is maybe what you could do is have it spin at a certain way, like if it's, like if it's really healthy, like maybe you'll have it spin wide, okay? And then maybe if it's not as healthy, it just peters out or goes diagonal, or and I'm saying this because everybody is going to be different about what they're looking for in the chakra. For
Mhm.
me, I look at the percentage of value, and I put, sometimes in the middle I'll put balance, and then if it's overactive, I want to see how overactive it is. If it's underactive, I want to see how underactive it is. Then you also want to check to see if each of the chakras are connected to the other ones in a healthy way. So sometimes they're fine, but they're disconnected. So then you want to like ask the pendulum, okay, connect the red chakra with the orange chakra, and then the orange one with the yellow one. If you notice that there's like a disconnect between the red one and so you probably know some from homeopathic medicine, like sometimes like each of them are functioning fine, they're just not functioning together or cooperating, and
Mhm.
that's a particular kind of dysfunction versus something that is harmed and just not working at all.
So I guess the crux of my question though is like, is by holding the pendulum with your arm, is that an
Oh.
interference in the scientific method? Whereas could we
Mm.
actually attach the pendulum to the ceiling and then measure the chakra, and would that
Very interesting. Okay. I hold it with the pen. I'm used to getting out of my own way, okay, like when I'm holding the pendulum, but that was a natural thing that I did. I didn't realize that I did that, and that's why I have such accuracy in the pendulum. But you're right. Other people may not be able to remove themselves from the pendulum. So that is a practice for removing yourself and allowing spirit to come through you. Now, it's interesting that you bring this up because there are some folks who are using pendulums for something called radionics, and that's exactly what they're doing. They're hanging the pendulum on a metal device, like it's, I guess, a really glorified, like pyramid type of thing, and they're hanging the pendulum so nothing is touching it, and it'll still swing in ways that it needs to swing over. Like they'll put like maybe a photograph of the person that they're working on. Maybe they have a disease or something, so they're asking them to remove the disease influence and then bring in the positive energy. So they're doing the intention setting, but the pendulum is held by the device rather than by them, and it still moves.
Is that
Mhm.
radionics?
Yes, look up radionics. There's a guy named Rodney. Oh my gosh, I'm forgetting his last name. Ah, he just wrote a book, and I'm like, I gotta get this book. um, I will find the link and maybe put a comment down on this video later. I'm sorry, I'm just brain farting right now. Like,
Okay,
Oh, it
okay.
happens to the best of us.
I
Well,
just know him as Rodney. He's a UK radionics practitioner, and he also uses brass pendulums and wood pendulums, particularly for radionics, because he says, and this is from his experience, the crystal pendulums, which I love working with crystal pendulums, but they do need to be cleared a lot and maybe reprogrammed and recharged. Where the brass pendulums, they really hold the energy, and it's really hard to interrupt what's going on here. So you don't have to clear them all the time. So they become kind of a workhorse, right?
Mhm.
I mean, really,
Um,
any weight on a string can be a pendulum.
It can. I will say though that I'm learning from his group that when
Yeah.
you're using it for radionics, it's actually important what you're using for the healing aspect.
Okay.
I feel like
I didn't know this because I could use my flip flop if I'm in a pinch, right? Like I could literally
Mhm.
get my flip flop off, and if I'm wearing just a tank top dress and a flip flop, I can ask yes, no, all of this stuff. But if I'm sending healing or changing energy with a flip flop, okay.
it's just not as stylish. I mean, let's be real. Um,
Depends on the flip flop.
I
So,
know, that's
Mad,
true.
Mad Sage Aquarius is here, and I don't know, Mad Sage Aquarius, where are you? It says everything's going to have a vibration. Bringing it to your personal vibration when you're doing a self reading is probably best. What do you think of that, Lisa? Bringing your
Self-reading. Meaning like as okay, I just want to make sure I understand the question. Or is he or she speaking of doing the reading for the self versus allowing another person to look at it? Or I mean, I guess I want to make sure of the question.
Okay, Mad Sage Aquarius, can we clarify the question? Thank you for the question, by the way. So Lisa, I want to say I always see you with your little cutie brass pendulum. Why is it? Are you emotionally attached to this one, or what? What is?
I wouldn't say emotionally, but I would say that this one has just shown over time that it's capable of a lot.
Like what?
I use this all the time, and I don't have to clear it. I don't have to reprogram it. It's a workhorse.
Oh, interesting.
There's a guy in Oregon. His name is Nick Salzman. That he sells this particular kind of pendulum. This one is particular. His name's Sekhmet. It operates in a violet energy. And so if people out there, like when I'm holding the pendulum and they keep seeing violet, that might be the reason. I just want to tell them. So it is a violet energy. And I don't know, I guess I work with violet energy. Like I didn't know that was a thing until I started studying some of the radionics stuff. Not that I want to necessarily become a radionics practitioner, but I'm learning a lot of crossover of how to use pendulums and do more effective healing with them. Because I was already doing healing even with crystal pendulums, but I had to clear them all the time. Mm-hmm. And I had to reprogram them all the time because there would be stuff that could get stuck in them. Like, well,
how do you know?
You get weird responses, things that don't make sense. Like if I'll give you an example. So one of my pendulums, which was an obsidian one, and I loved it. Okay. It ended up breaking because one of the things I learned about obsidian is that it collects a lot of energy and you have to like clear it out a lot. And you also can't like just leave it in the sun because it can explode. Like it could just
really?
Yeah. Yes. Yes.
What kind of answers
Obsidian is so like it's sensitive. Like it's black and it's like it goes deep and all of that, but it's really sensitive as far as care.
Interesting.
So I was always clearing it, and what I would usually use is like sage smoke or something like that. And then I would reprogram it, and I usually use moonlight, you know, when I did that because I wanted the energy to be softer in this particular pendulum. But one time I left it outside on accident and then the sun came out and I came out and there it was broken.
Oh my God.
So also when people told me that when their obsidian pendulum breaks, there's too much energy inside. So that's another reason that it might break, like not just from the sunlight, but like if it's overloaded with the things that you're trying to clear out of that, it might be a problem. So one of the things that you can do besides a brass one or wood pendulum, because that would be another thing that the radionics community likes to use, is you could maybe use something that doesn't need to be cleared all the time, like a citrine or a black tourmaline or smoky quartz or selenite, but selenite's really delicate too.
Interesting. Yeah. So Mad Sage Aquarius is saying, as in when you're reading your chakras, it's being personally connected rather than being connected to the ceiling. So she was saying everything's going to have a vibration. Bringing it to your personal vibration when you're doing a self reading is probably best instead of hanging it from the ceiling. So
I see. Okay, so it would depend on whether you are able. Okay.
That's our next.
I saw something like wiggle on the screen. I apologize.
Well, I'm like, what's going on? Question. I was just posting
the purple violet frequency. For me, I work with purple energy, but I also have this one. This one is an orange frequency. This is a more of a Karnak shape, and it's elongated, and I really like it. But I don't use it as much because for me and orange energy, I sometimes, okay, but I tend to work with purple energy, and it's just my alignment. So Jenna, you might find that you are a blue energy person, and if that's the case, you'll want to get one of the pendulums that have blue energy, or you might have other ones that are red or brown or gray. There's even one called negative green, and there's a whole bunch of scuttle about that one. And not even, I don't work with negative green energy, but I understand that that's a cautionary one.
Is that like a color we can't see?
I don't know why they call it that.
Do you think it would be cool to have a pendulum that matched the colors of your aura? Like Jenna has a Gemini moon, which is light blue, theoretically. So
would she be the one? I would ask, because so my own aura, there's a lot of purple in it now. When I was younger, though, it wasn't like that. When I was younger, I had a lot of red and orange and like peridot color. I had a Reiki attunement, so you could actually see in my aura photograph, I had this big opening of like this kind of pinky purple, like where I had an attunement. But the rest of me was like all, creativity. And during that time in my life, I was a single mother and I was crocheting like a crazy person. So I had all of this creativity happening. But then as I got older, I noticed more of the bluer energies coming through, and then it got more indigo, and now I'm more purple. So it just gradually like went like higher chakras, like for me. And I hear that that's common for a lot of people with their auras. I do not see auras, but you know what? That's not a bad idea to match the energy ray with your own natural energy aura. That's not a bad idea.
Yeah, that would be cool. Debbie's saying her pendulum is stacked with stones resonating with the major chakras. She can't use obsidian, it's too intense. What do you think about having stones in a pendulum?
I can imagine. Yeah, for some people, obsidian is very intense, but also, again, like because of the structure of it, it's really delicate too. So it's like it's this kind of dichotomy. Debbie, do you like the fact that you have a stone per chakra? Because like that might actually help you like do all of the colors at one time. I actually have a pendulum like that too, and it's a black bead. It's not obsidian, but it's a black glass bead, and all the beads are like red all the way to purple. And I like working with it. I just happen to like working a lot more with the brass ones now because they're so versatile. And I can just pick up things and I can just do things fast. I don't have to worry about clearing it out later. Because it's self-clearing. It just
what
doesn't.
What is it about
it doesn't
brass
get
that's like that?
I'm guessing it's because of the process of the brass. When they create brass, like any kind of brass, I'm noticing that it holds the energy of whatever it is, and it's very resistant to whatever energy is around. So, like other kinds of metals, like may be more receptive towards energies coming in. Like for instance, silver, like you might be able to program silver. Brass, I think that like when you're forging it and you're like saying brass, you're going to do this and then it works. It's like, okay, it's locked in.
This may be a dumb question, but
is my aura. Okay.
Is brass the combination of tin and another substance?
I don't remember. Okay, I'll be honest with you.
Oh, that's okay.
I'll have to look that up.
I have a question. Okay, so it sounds like you have a bead at the end of the one, so you can have a.
This particular one does have a bead on the end.
Wait, so is it circular? So you can have a circular pendulum. It doesn't have to have a point at the end.
Correct. Yes, you can. So I will tell you. For me, I prefer points on the end because I use it a lot for charts, right?
Oh, interesting.
So, and some of the charts have these little tiny categories, right? So I need to see where that point is going. So that's why I like using points. But there are some pendulums that are like round, like sphere shaped. And they have a completely different energy when they're spinning energy into the healing world. Like it's more of like that big, healing energy versus like a pointed laser type of energy. And even these, the 5 little discs that you see on here. Okay, I'm putting it in the sun because I can.
Explode.
I know,
not
right?
obsidian.
Yeah, hopefully not, because it's brass and that would be scary.
Yeah.
But even these, like the way that the energy goes, it radiates out in a different way. And yeah, and some of this is what I'm learning in the radionics work. And I'm going to be buying that book, and I'm going to be sharing that video. I'm sorry. I'm going to be sharing that book in your video later in the comments.
Okay, nice. So what do you do when you hang it over a chart? Like, what are you doing there with the chart?
So, okay, here's a good one. How about this chart, the right therapy? How would you like that one?
Well, that's cool.
Okay, so and I'm going to try to show it in the video. So I just hold it over the chart and say, hey, what right therapy would be like one for Andrea that she could like look at today? This is weird. Why is it going to craniosacral therapy?
Maybe because I have extreme TMJ in my jaw.
Is that what you meant to say? Oh, it says, okay. So it's saying craniosacral therapy would be your right therapy.
Oh, interesting.
And look at all the choices. Right?
Wow, that's a cool remediation technique.
Exactly. This is why I'm so fascinated with your work, Andy, and in combination with this is the other therapy chart.
Oh my God.
So just double checking that you don't need this therapy chart too. So I'm going to ask right now.
Okay.
Did that chart come from the book?
This chart, that says no. So it was craniosacral therapy.
Interesting. I will actually take that into account because I've never thought of, like, I have this clicking in my jaw constantly when I crochet and stuff. I get all that clicking, but I've never thought to actually have someone work on it. But I should try that.
I'm sure that you can find a craniosacral therapist in Portland. I'm sure you'll find one. I'm sure you will.
And probably well, sorry, I was going to say something inappropriate. Okay.
Oh, okay.
Right. Okay. And they could be a babe too. All right. Okay. So Matt says that it's talking about the Foucault pendulum at the Franklin Institute. Do you know about that?
I've only heard about it recently, actually. I have not researched it, but yeah, it's fascinating that there's different kinds of pendulums over history that have been used for things. For instance, this Karnak shape is a specified shape that has powers in the Egyptian lore.
Wow.
Okay, and this one is an elongated one. Like, it's not even the right proportions according to that, but I like it because I like the elegance of the longer, So, these are the only 2 brass ones I have, and I have a whole bunch of crystal ones. They're put away right now. I'll, be getting them out at some point again.
What's the Foucault pendulum?
I just barely learned about that. I hadn't had time to like look into that, but I can tell you that I know about that there are shapes of pendulums that are traditionally used like for like hundreds, potentially thousands of years to do specific kinds of energy work. So what does it mean when your pendulum vibrates? Okay, that would depend on the person using the pendulum. So if it's yourself, I think what I would do, Deb, since you're pretty psychic, as I recall. So every time your pendulum vibrates, I would start figuring out how you're feeling or what is your download that is happening. Because that's what I had to do when my pendulum was going diagonal and and it didn't make any sense, like with the context of what was happening. I'm like, why are you going diagonal? And when I sat and thought about it, and when I was like observing my feelings, I was like, oh, it's harmonizing. So then I was like, hey, are you harmonizing? And then it told me yes. And I'm like, oh, okay. So now I know what it's doing. So it might be a process of you just getting to know how your pendulum works for you and what it's doing. And it might be, so, okay, here's something that just popped into my head. It might be out there getting the information that you asked for. So like, let's say that, you're asking like the world, like a big world question, like when is ascension happening or something like that. Okay. That's a gigantic question with a lot of moving parts. So your pendulum might vibrate because of all the energy that it is like having to look at in order to try to answer your question. And even with a question that complicated, you might only get a percentage of a yes, no, rather than like a true reading, because there's so many factors, there's so many moving parts. It's really difficult to, I guess, predict like not just a behavior of one person, but everybody on the planet. Okay. Something like that. Does that make sense, Deb?
So, okay, the Foucault pendulum is a large, heavy pendulum demonstrating the Earth's rotation by appearing to change its swing direction as the planet rotates beneath it, a phenomenon first shown by Leon Foucault in 1851, making it a popular science museum exhibit showing the Earth turning on its axis. The pendulum's swing plane stays fixed in space due to inertia, while the Earth's spin causes observers to see the plane slowly shift over hours, knocking over markers arranged in the circle.
Okay. So that's more of a, I guess, more of a science thing. But boy, for a healing thing, that might be a really cool thing to program healing for the Earth.
Oh, interesting. Dude, I want to lay
Wow.
under Foucault's pendulum and see what happens.
Yeah. Like, I mean, yeah. And I'm guessing that you would have to construct one or whatever, like, because it sounds like it's not just the pendulum shape. It's like the pendulum measurement of the string, the device that it's on, like, all of that.
Yeah,
There's probably a whole bunch of other things that are going on with that.
it's kind of what they look like. So they must like
Yeah.
knock over things.
Yeah.
It's cool. I mean, that pendulums
But
exist.
you could put maybe like, so you could maybe put peace underneath that and like maybe get world peace. I don't know,
Oh, interesting.
or a symbol for peace, right?
Yeah. Well,
I'm just, I don't know. I'm thinking about like, cause I think about it, the science of it is awesome, right? But I also think about how can we use it? What can we do with that? And how can we make things better?
yeah. Rachel, what were you were talking to me yesterday about something with the pendulum in your arm position?
Oh yeah, I want to go there, but first I want to say that
Oh,
brass is an alloy of copper and zinc.
Oh,
Just
okay.
aha.
Yeah, okay.
FYI,
Okay.
it's an alloy, so it's a combination. It's copper, which is, I think copper is really good for neutralizing, right? Or clearing.
Copper, well, and copper is actually ruled by Venus, so it's a
Hmm.
good connector. So
Yeah,
that might be why it's a good connector, but I would think that the zinc would make it be more like, so for instance, with copper, you could interfere with the energy and some of the other stuff, where brass, it
and it's
kind of is like,
malleable.
no, we're programmed. We're
Yeah.
done.
Mhm.
So, and by the way, I love copper pendulums too.
Mm.
Okay. But copper, again, it conducts. And so it's going to be different than somebody else. And there are people out there that say, I can't work a pendulum for anything. Like I cannot get it to work. Try a copper one. Okay. Or try a version of copper like malachite, because malachite is actually copper that has been, verdigreed or whatever, right? So
Hmm.
you can have a copper chain that you hold, and then like the malachite or the copper pendulum on the bottom, and they have ones that are like twisted wires and all kinds of stuff. You might get those to respond to you, because that's what a few people have told me that have not been able to use a pendulum, and the copper ones just totally worked. And then other people, they're like, oh, copper doesn't really work because there's too much stimulation, so it just sits there and doesn't know what to do. But then a different kind does, right?
Mm.
I like wood pendulums too. They're like brass in that they stay like in their own program, and they don't transfer very much, and you don't have to clean them all the time, but they're softer feeling than the brass ones too.
I think it's interesting.
And
Brass is
all the woods
also,
have different qualities as well. So
yeah.
it's really fun. Do you have any more questions on the charts, Andrea?
Yeah, but wait, I want Rachel to ask her question, and then I have another question.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so the actual question that I have is, when I have never watched people do pendulums online, and for you were the first person I saw, and I noticed you were holding it up above, right? You had this like
so you could see it.
Yeah. And I always thought that it was this sense of like, almost like you don't cross your legs when you're getting work done, this sense of like you don't want to cross energies. You also want to have a flow of energy going down your arm, and having your, like your shoulder to your elbow to your wrist going down towards the ground, so you can get the most direct answer.
So when I demonstrated for this, it's only so you can see it. I don't keep it up above my head, because literally it's above my head when you guys can see it. Okay.
Yeah.
I usually keep it at my arm level, and at about, like, I guess at the solar plexus level, and then it swings. So that's not as much of a problem for me. And what?
So there's not a right where place to hold it. It doesn't have to be up high. It doesn't have to be down low. It can be like anywhere.
For me, I would imagine that some people, like, they have maybe some sensitivity. So maybe energy doesn't run in their body in the same way. So they have to hold it in a certain way. But I find that you just do what is comfortable. So for instance, when Nick made this pendulum, I think he made it so that it could hang on one of those devices, right? Like those triad things that I was talking about. Okay. But are you kidding me? Like, I'm not going to hold my pendulum like up to the ceiling. You know what I'm saying? So I put a knot so that I could just grab it and feel it and then go, okay. And then I know where my pendulum swings. And you want to do it where it's a comfortable swing. You want it to be able to go in all directions freely, so that it's not inhibited one way or another. Yes. And like, so if you did it like really tight, like you could do it like that, you know what I mean? But it's like, this was the area where it's like, okay, this is a healthy swing, if I need it, and I can see if it's like going like, a helicopter, or I can see if it's like doing nothing or what have you. Like, it just depends on the use and the questioning.
I love this question, Andrea.
Oh, thank you.
Do you think Neptunian people have an easier time working with the pendulum?
No, and I'll tell you why. Actually, more Saturnian people have easier time with pendulum.
Whoa.
And I'll tell you why.
Okay.
It's because you are accessing the morphogenetic field of the planet. So it's an earth energy. And I find that Saturnian people, because of the conciseness of the questions when you're asking them, and to not take things for granted, Saturnian, like, kind of mind, if you will, can work better. That doesn't mean that a person with Neptune can't use a pendulum, obviously. However, I would think that they need to have, like, say, a structure or a protocol in place before they get to that pendulum thing, so that they can allow their Neptune to pull in whatever that they're pulling in. But without any structure, it's really hard to get answers with the pendulum, because you got to be more concise with the pendulum.
Don't you think that Neptunian people can let the flow of energy through them better, though?
Yeah, like, I think but think about, like, what if you're not like asking questions that have like a good structure, so that you get good answers, so that you know how to interpret it, right?
Well, I see.
So yeah, and that's the difference. Okay, most people that I know that are Neptunian, they actually get, and I'm talking about naturally. I'm not talking about with training or anything like that. Neptunian people, in my experience, have much better with just psychic ability. They can see things, they can hear things, they're open, they're just like all over. People that are using the pendulum, you got to have a container for it. And a container is literally Saturn. You got to have a place for it to actually operate and to ask questions that have good structure, so that it's like good yes, no, and that it's useful information. If you're just willy-nilly and ask the questions like without really a lot of forethought, you know what it's kind of like, and this will be kind of like something that you can relate to. It's like how horary astrology works that way, because you know how you have to like really structure your question to make sure you get a good answer that's usable. It's like that with pendulums too.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I think that that's half the battle is getting a good question, and then part of it's letting the energy flow through you. And so maybe somebody with a strong Neptune and a strong Saturn might be really good at the best pendulum person. Are you?
Yes.
Is that you? Is that
Well, funny enough, and you know my chart, I have Saturn square Neptune. So I had to like learn how to like operate both of those energies. And when I was young, I made the mistake of like going, reality is, this, and imagination is this. And I never thought the two would cross over when I was young, because, over and over again, we were taught that, oh, imagination, that doesn't matter. It's all about what's real. And only when I was older did I realize, wait a minute, like imagination creates the real. So, it's a bridge there. And I want to answer Jana's question about dowsing rods. Again, it's a different way to access the energy. You can totally use rods if it's harder for you to use a pendulum, and you can use a rod instead, or two rods, and you can make the, like them cross for yes, open up for no, or vice versa, or whatever works for you, you can do that. And what I will also say is the rods are easier to do like land clearings and things like that, because like you can actually like you can follow, like, you go through your house and you go, okay, start showing me. And it's harder with a pendulum. It's just more difficult, at least for me. I can take a rod and like just follow it, and then like I'll find the spirals and clear them, and and stuff like that. So it's easier to do like land clearing, room clearing, things like that with a rod.
How do you clear a room with a rod?
So I learned this from a Hay House book. You know what? I'm gonna have to write notes to myself.
A book? You're gonna have to write a book?
It's like, well, yeah, actually, I need to do that too. That's another topic. But I need to share that book too, the Hay House book that I bought, because that's how I learned how to do it. And I developed my own way, because I believe that the person that wrote this book, I'm figuring that she's an air sign or a water sign, because I work differently. But she and I'll share the book with you guys later again in the comments. But how I do it is I get the one rod, okay, and I just allow it. So you need a rod that allows you to just hold the rod very comfortably, but that it moves in all the directions, okay? So that it does that without you having to move it, or like that it doesn't get stuck or whatever it is, okay? So first you need the right tool. And then if I take one rod, okay, and I just enter a room and I say, okay, show me how the energy is flowing in this room. And so I'll just follow it around. So if you like go in the room and then it zigzags back and then it goes the other way, okay, this is fine. And then it zigzags back. Okay, so the energy is moving in this room. But then sometimes you get like where it spirals and then it's stuck. And then you can go into that place and say, okay, and then that's when I get my pendulum, because now the pendulum works for me. But you can do this with a rod too, and say, okay, I would like to unstick this energy. And then the pendulum will unspin it. And then it'll say, yes, it's clear. And then I'll get my rod and keep going. And I'll do the whole room. Okay. You can do a whole house. You can do the land. You can do it on a map. If you're remote, you can do, like, you can even have like little tiny forks, right? Like, or rods, little tiny ones, and do a map. You can, I swear. You
Oh
can
my God,
totally
that
do
is
that.
so cute.
I know, right? It's so
You can
cool.
do a map in a dollhouse with the
And it
tiniest
doesn't even
corner
have to be
ever.
to scale. It could just be a rough schematic, and you could get like, okay, here's a PowerPoint.
Yeah.
Here's a ley line. Here is
Well, then how much do you think of this is conceptual and how much is actually working in reality?
okay. Anybody that's ever felt earth energy, it's pretty real.
But then
Okay.
how can you do it remotely if it's not just conceptual?
It's because you're tapped into that energy. I don't know how to describe it, because I think that the energy is everywhere. And so you can, and as long as you're a conduit and you understand it, it doesn't matter where it is.
Hmm.
Yeah. Some
Um,
people might want to be there though. So, I mean, they might have their own, tactical or, whatever, like maybe they have a heavy Taurus chart, right? And they want to be there and actually feel the energy. But I think you could do it from anywhere. I think you could be on Mars and douse like for water,
the
as long as you
scientist
have a
in me
map.
is horrified, although I'll have to go quantum. Now I'm going.
You could do that.
Yeah, okay, so let's go back to the charts. Okay, so that was cool how
Okay.
you held it over like a chart with just ideas on it. But how would you douse over an astrological chart?
Oh, well now, okay, so what I have done is for some people who are maybe they don't know exactly what time they're born, I have dowsed a working time, but I have went through all of the methods that you teach in your course, okay?
Hmm.
Because I don't trust, to me, I think that it's so important
You're
to
talking about my rectification
have
class.
a working chart that
Yeah.
I would rather do all of the things that you talk about, like the appearance and all of the things, and take notes on that, and then douse and then put those things together. So I do dowsing for figuring out like somebody's rising, and then I make sure that I tell them that this is a working chart, because you may one day find your, birth certificate that has your, like
Mhm.
has your birth time on it, and maybe it's underneath something in some archive somewhere. You know what I'm saying?
Interesting.
So
So
yeah, that way it doesn't traumatize the person in order to, but I will tell you that I think that you can still get a working chart from
yeah.
this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think in rectification, we have talked about this, but it's like we find
Yeah.
that it's more useful to find a chart that the person resonates with than one that is scientifically accurate. I mean, it would be good if
Oh,
it was scientifically accurate, but I think if since there's no way to prove it, then I think as long as they resonate with it, at least it's useful in that fashion. So before we got on air here, you were talking to us about you have this like specificity thing of like the chart is this level of specificity, and then you go down to tarot cards.
oh, yeah. The way that I do the reading. So, yeah. So, if I'm doing an astrology reading, because oddly, I was an astrologer before. I mean, I was pendulum dowsing already, but as far as my professional work, I became an astrologer first, and also a tarot card reader and some other, oracle decks and types of things like that. And what I did was for the wider view, like, the things that are overarching and everything, I use astrology, because you can see long-term cycles, like the Saturn Neptune conjunction that's coming up. Like you can see how that's happening for somebody. You can see how, like, if Saturn is squaring their ascendant, for a long time, like, you can tell those kinds of cycles, like those larger type of cycles, with astrology. We
Okay.
can also get very specific with astrology, as you know, through horary and other things, right? But for the larger picture, I usually use astrology. Then for questions that are kind of more narrow, like what if I, ask my boss for a raise? I mean, you could see that in the astrology chart, but sometimes it's just easier to pick a card and see like what's going on. And part of this was like to save time for the client too. And I'm good with reading tarot, so I totally get, because tarot and astrology, to me, they're very intertwined. Okay, like
Mhm.
I could just get the answer that way. And then for the dowsing part is where I go really tight, concise details, like, which flower essence will work for unleashing my my issue here or whatever. Like, maybe you have like a Saturn square Neptune, and maybe you need a flower essence so you want to see like which one it is, and then you want to see how often you take it. And you can do that with dowsing, 2 drops twice a day for 3 months. And then you'll maybe have to go to a new essence or whatever. But what I'm saying is you can do the exact work through this, and and as long as you're centered and grounded and drink water, you got to drink water, because otherwise your circuits might not be working all the time.
And I feel like there's questions in a reading that are better handled by tarot or pendulum. Like, for example, like, should I move to Chicago or Brooklyn? Of course, like, a natal chart's not going to show us that. Now, astrocartography could show us this, but also you could use a pendulum for saying, you could use a pendulum for saying like Chicago, yes, Brooklyn, yes, or like, so or the tarot cards in that case, right?
Yes, and actually, I would say use whatever you have at access that allows you to get that answer. So for you might find that looking at a map, like I could see you like, and not even with the astrology lines, you could probably just look at the map and go, I'm getting this.
Well,
I'm
what I
getting
do
that.
is have a discussion with them. I'm like, well, do you like Brooklyn better or do you like Chicago better?
Right.
Like,
or whatever.
Yeah. Like,
or whatever, because they actually have their own personality. But then there's also, are you familiar? It's out of print now, but Rose Murray wrote a really good book on moving. And she interfaces astrology with cardology and mixes them together. And it's so cool. So not only the mapping, but also the birth date of the city, like the incorporation, and then figuring out the sun and moon of that city, and then what cards they represent, and then like what card you are, and then all of the planetary cards. And so she combines both of those systems, and it's really fabulous. You should check that out if you can get a hold of it. Jenna
what is
says,
cardology?
Cardology is, have you ever heard of the 52 cards, like where your birth date has a card that matches it?
Yeah, I'm a 10 of hearts. Is that it?
Yes. Okay. So, and then so the 10 of hearts would be your sun card because that's your birthday. But then the card next to it on the schematic, and there's 2 schematics. There's a spiritual one and then a life one. And they usually use the life one. And then the card that's next to it is your Mercury card. Then the card next to that is the Venus card. So the Venus card is going to be a good card. So you want a card that like matches the cities, right? So you have Venus and love and stuff like that. So, and then there's Mars, which if you're training for the Olympics, it's great. But, like that might not be like the desirable energy for a lot of people. And, John is Queen of Hearts. Yeah. So Queen of Hearts, again, all of these have like card energies that go with them. And so you can find like with the birth date of the city, if that sun of that energy matches the city, like meaning how it matches in your card layout. So that's what her book was about.
What is your favorite
thing? And I think it's out of print.
Yeah.
So we're back to this question because I don't want to forget it because it's important, at least from my point of view. So there has been a discovery that the Earth has like the northern latitudes, have more of a crown chakra, like upper chakra thing. So Alaskan flower essences are really good with all of those upper chakras. The batch flower remedies, because Glastonbury, and it's the, the heart chakra, the green chakra of the world, right? So there's a lot of heart energy with the batch flower remedies. And for the Australian bush, that is really fantastic for the lower chakras. So I find the bush ones are one of my favorites because I find that a lot of people who are really psychic and really waking up, they have a lot of lower chakra stuff going on. And the Australian bush essence line is amazing. And you can get the charts on this website, subtle.net. Oops, there we go.
Hopefully we can get that
And
in the show notes
you
too.
just type into the like dowsing charts, and then you type in the kind of chart that you want to get. And there's an Australian bush one, and it even tells you what it does. Like, it's really cool. Subtle.net, yay!
Mhm.
Yes. What is your favorite thing to do for people and when the services you offer?
Oh, wow. I would,
and then
I really like figuring out what flower essences to help them with dowsing. Like, once we do like some exploration about, some of the energies, or like why the reading happened in the first place, we explore some of the themes of that. Look at, the astrology chart and say, hey, like, this is what's going, oh, how cute. This is, like what we're working with, and maybe like some of the energies that, and oh, wow, I see in your natal chart that those energies are a challenge for you. So let's see if we can get them to work together, because I'm about remediation as much as Andrea is, and I like having lots of tools.
Yes, you're pulling in them all so you can create a good
and I'm a trained herbalist too, so I can even get it to work in the physical level and start like having it open up. And then of course, gosh, I wish I was an acupuncturist, and like a guy like Will Morris. Oh my gosh, you know what I mean? Like, he is so awesome.
Okay, so we only have 1 minute, so let's tell people how to find you, so if they can work with you, because obviously you're a treasure trove, and it's really fun.
Thank you. You're so cool, Andrea. TimingMagic.com, or you can go to Linktree, Timing Magic. You can find me. I'm around on Facebook. I'm in Andrea's community there. Yeah, find me. Like, you guys know how to find me.
TimingMagic.com. Find Lisa for a reading, a pendulum, tarot, dowsing, all of that. Lisa, it has been such a pleasure having you on today. I
am so happy.
I'm always glad when I get to hang out with you for an hour. It's so fun.
I am too. Well, that's because we have 29 Gemini rising, and so like we're like all clicked up, right?
Yeah. Debbie, it's in the YouTube chat, but when I type this, it doesn't show up for Facebook. But all right, Lisa. All right, Rachel. Thank you so much for everyone who is here. Thank you so much. We will see you tomorrow for the Ricky Show, and we'll have everyone have a good day.
Yay!
All right, bye.